Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're going to be checking out some incredibly cool battles in the Open Master League featuring an XL level 50 Galarian ZAPDOS. These battles were submitted to the channel by a fellow content creator, Elodie Colo, so many thanks for the battle submission. Galarian ZAPDOS is a fighting and flying type Pokemon with the moveset of Counter, Ancient Power, and Brave Bird, and this trainer pairs it up with a Florges and a Reshiram and goes on a 14-7 run. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out XL Galarian ZAPDOS in the Master League. Hopping to the first match, leading Galarian ZAPDOS into Mamoswine. Both Pokemon hitting each other for super effective damage. Mamoswine is going to strike first with the Avalanche, and we see the immediate shield from the ZAPDOS. ZAPDOS may look to try and counter down here. ZAPDOS gets the farm down as Mamoswine falls just short of making it to another move. Opponent now going to send in Giratina Origin. Giratina going to be met with a Brave Bird. Brave Bird, big damage onto the Giratina. And now ZAPDOS firing off the Ancient Power here. Does the opponent commit the shield? Yes, they do. Aggressive pivot into Reshiram, and the opponent has Dialga in the back. Dialga definitely not going to appreciate Fusion Flare. Fusion Flare, the legacy move on Reshiram, does hit very hard. We see a shield being put up by the Dialga. Dialga looking for the farm down and able to get the farm down. In comes the Galarian ZAPDOS. ZAPDOS able to get the Dialga low. Dialga does leave with a ton of energy though, and Iron Head is going to hurt the XL Florges. Florges able to tank the Iron Head. Opponent does have the back-to-back, so we are going to see the shield being used here by the Florges. Opponent staying in with Dialga. Dialga cannot make a move, and that will be game over. In comes the Giratina, but it's met with a loaded Moonblast. Down goes Giratina, and that is a good game. Moving into the next match, leading Galarian ZAPDOS into Dialga, a very nice lead, and we see the screenshot as well. Opponent save switches into Reshiram, which will be countered with Florges. Reshiram can, of course, hit for heavy neutral damage with Fusion Flare, but thanks to Florges double resisting the fast move, Florges still has a pretty nice matchup here. Florges going straight for the big move in the Moonblast. Moonblast is able to land, and now Florges can just spam out Disarming Voice, which is very, very quick to get to. Florges firing off Disarming Voice, decision time for the opponent. Opponent is going to let that through, and instead, they're going to look for a farm down with Dialga. Dialga is going to be met with a Moonblast though, and this Moonblast will hit for some heavy neutral damage. Moonblast lands onto Dialga. Dialga gets its attack debuffed as well. In comes the Galarian ZAPDOS. ZAPDOS will commit the shield here. Dialga able to grab that shield advantage, but the opponent is not switching out here. Dialga gets farmed down in the back. They have Excadrill, and now we know why they didn't switch out. They were ABA weak to Galarian ZAPDOS, and now ZAPDOS is about to feast. Opponent can fire off the Rock Slide here, but this is only neutral due to ZAPDOS' typing. ZAPDOS able to tank it like it's nothing and just fire off these Ancient Powers, gets the shield from the opponent. There's just nothing the poor Excadrill can do, and that's a good game. Picking up a great lead in the next match, Galarian ZAPDOS into Yveltal. ZAPDOS is going to resist Yveltal's typical moveset, so unless they're running the surprise nuke of Hurricane, ZAPDOS is in an incredibly good spot here. ZAPDOS fires off the Ancient Power that grabs a shield from the opponent. Opponent farms all the way up to 100 energy. Do you respect the potential Hurricane? We do see the shield. Opponent goes for the Dark Pulse, and then they're going to save switch into Therian Landorus. Landorus, of course, a bit tough for Reshiram in the back thanks to Stone Edge, so we are going to see the ZAPDOS actually stay in here. ZAPDOS will be met with the Stone Edge. Stone Edge will hit for some heavy neutral damage, but it's not going to be enough to KO. ZAPDOS able to make it to the Brave Bird, baits with the Ancient Power, hoping to try and grab a shield from the opponent. Ancient Power gets no shielded. Opponent will make it to a Superpower, and at this point, I think you just let this go. Superpower is going to KO the ZAPDOS. In comes Florges. Florges able to get a nice Fairy Wind farm down. Opponent is not going to send in Yveltal, so we should see their final Pokemon here. Opponent is going to be sending in their final Pokemon, and it's Excadrill. So definitely unfortunate that the ZAPDOS has been KO'd, but let's see what Florges can do here. Able to land the Moonblast. That did quite a bit of damage to Exca. Exca is going to return fire here, firing off the Drill Run. Drill Run is going to land onto the Florges. Florges makes it to the Moonblast, but unfortunately loses CMP to the Exca. Committing the shield on the Drill Run here and firing off the Moonblast, trying to get shields down from the opponent. This Moonblast is going to get the shield. Florges continuing to farm up. Florges, unfortunately, will be hit with the Drill Run, and now it's all up to Reshiram to try and clutch this game. The unfortunate thing is that they're going to be able to reach a Drill Run. Drill Run is going to get the Reshi low, and they still have a move loaded on Yveltal, so you can just try and go for the farm down, and goes for the Fusion Flare, but the opponent makes a sensational catch, catching it onto Yveltal. Yveltal had the move loaded. They're going to be able to KO the Reshiram, and that's a good game. Picking up a terrible lead in the next match, GALARIAN ZAPDOS into Giratina Origin. Not a good spot to be in whatsoever. We see the immediate save switch into the Florges. Giratina staying in this matchup, so Florges is going to fire off Disarming Voice. This will get some nice chip damage onto the Giratina if they let it through, which they do. Opponent banks the energy for later, and they're going to send in Excadrill. Exca, of course, going to be firing off Drill Runs in this matchup. 2 Drill Runs should be enough to KO. Florida's going to overfarm quite a bit, and Moonblast will do some nice chip damage even though it is resisted. Opponent actually commits a shield on a Moonblast. They are looking to massively overfarm with the Exca, and they let Florida's get to a second Moonblast. Opponent looking to overload on energy with the Exca. Exca is going to finally fire off a charge move. They go for the Drill Run, and down goes Florges. In comes the GALARIAN ZAPDOS. ZAPDOS looking to counter all the way down. They fire off the Rock Slide. ZAPDOS able to tank it, and the opponent does not make it to Rock Slide number 2. Giratina did store a Shadow Ball, so we are going to see a shield be used by the ZAPDOS. They full send the Shadow Ball, but now ZAPDOS can fire off this Brave Bird. Decision time for the opponent. Do they respect it? Yes, they do. In comes Reshiram in the back. They have Dialga, and this game is looking very, very winnable. Firing off the Fusion Flare. This Fusion Flare is going to do a ton of damage onto the Dialga, getting Dialga low. Dialga gets farmed down by the Reshiram. Reshiram gets farmed down by Giratina. In comes the Zapdos. Zapdos just has to make it to a charge move. Commits the shield. It's the Ominous Wind. They do not get the boost. Zapdos farming up, makes it to the Ancient Power. Come on, is this going to be enough to KO here? Zapdos KOs the Giratina and secures the win. We've got neutral leads in the next match, GALARIAN ZAPDOS into Therian Landorus. Both Pokemon not doing a lot of fast move damage, but will be able to hit for some neutral damage with charge moves. Zapdos is going to strike first, going for the Ancient Power. Ancient Power is going to grab a shield from the Landorus. Landorus going to return fire with the Stone Edge. We see the no shield from the Zapdos. Zapdos able to tank it and continue to farm. Opponent makes it to Stone Edge number 2. This time we are going to see Zapdos commit the shield, and Zapdos can overfarm quite a bit here. Opponent does not want to let that happen. They aggressive switch into Lugia, which will be met with the Ancient Power. Ancient Power lands. In comes Florges. Florges, of course, is going to be double resisting the Dragon Tails, so the Lugia doesn't have a lot of farm ability in this matchup. Florges lands the Moonblast. Lugia continues to farm, but since the Dragon Tails do so little, Florges can tank any move here. So we see the no shield, opponent baits with a Sky Attack, and they're going for Sky Attack number 2. Florges will comfortably be able to make it to a Moonblast, and Moonblast may even set up a potential Fairy Wind farm down. Firing off the Moonblast here onto the Lugia. Moonblast not quite able to KO. Opponent saves that Lugia for a catch later, and they're going to send in Dialga. Dialga going to be met with the Moonblast. Moonblast is going to grab a shield. In comes Reshiram. You want to get some value out of the Reshiram, where that way it's not going to be stuck against the Therian Landorus. Reshiram is going to commit the shield here. Dialga fires off the Iron Head. Reshiram going for the Fusion Flare. This will hit for some heavy neutral damage onto the Dialga. Fusion Flare gets Dialga low. Reshiram gets the farm down. Opponent still does have the Therian Landorus. We'll have to see. Can this Therian Landorus get to enough charge moves here? Landorus farming up, and the opponent plays to the CMP tie. Perfect counting by the opponent. Superpower is going to KO. In comes the Zapdos, farming up with the Zapdos, and we see an incredible catch, catching the move onto the Florges. It's the Stone Edge. In comes the Zapdos. Zapdos farms down, and that is a good game. We've got same leads in the next match, GALARIAN ZAPDOS into Therian Landorus. We've seen how this plays out, and this is a pretty decent lead for Zapdos. A lot of neutral damage throughout, Zapdos farming up quite a bit, and going to let the first Stone Edge from the Landorus through. Stone Edge is going to land, Zapdos continuing to farm up a ton of energy, and now going for the Ancient Power. We'll have to see, does the opponent respect it with a shield? Ancient Power is going to be no-shielded by the opponent. Goes for the Ancient Power, unfortunately loses CMP to the Landorus. Landorus, of course, does have a very high attack stat. Going to commit the shield, return fire with the Ancient Power here. Going for an undercharge, actually, on the Ancient Power, but the opponent shields nevertheless. Zapdos farming up. Opponent just going to fire off a superpower at this point. Superpower is going to land, and it is going to KO the Zapdos. In comes Reshiram. Reshiram gets a nice farm down. We'll have to see what the opponent sends in. They send in Excadrill. Excadrill, definitely a bit of a scary Pokemon for this backline to see, but the good news is Reshiram has an energy lead and is able to grab the final shield with a Fusion Flare. Reshiram is going to commit the final shield as well. Unfortunately, Exca is going to outpace here. Reshiram farming up, and we see a beautiful catch, catching the Drill Run onto Florges. Florges going to be able to absorb that damage. Opponent farming up with the Excadrill, and Exca's firing off the Drill Run here. So the opponent clearly doesn't have a good response to either one of these two Pokemon with their final Mon. Going for the Moonblast here. This Moonblast is resisted, but it is going to hurt. Moonblast gets Exca low. Exca decides against the farm down, and their final Pokemon is revealed to be Yveltal. Yveltal not going to appreciate Disarming Voice. In comes the Reshiram. Reshiram needs to overfarm as much as possible, but I believe this is the Focus Blast from Yveltal. It's going to KO, and that's GG's. Moving into the next match, leading Galarian Zapdos into Ho-Oh. Now this matchup is exactly why this Galarian Zapdos is running Ancient Power. Ancient Power, not the strongest move ever, but will hit for double super effective damage. Charging up the Ancient Power, it connects, dealing big damage to the Ho-Oh, and we see a catch. Oh my goodness, did he catch the Sacred Fire? Yes, he did! What a catch! Opponent is gonna send in Zacian. Zacian, of course, only able to hit for neutral due to the Dragon Fire typing on Reshiram. Reshiram lands the Fusion Flare, and that's going to leave a mark. Zacian farming up a ton of energy. We see the immediate no shield here from the Reshiram. Zacian goes for the Play Rough. Reshiram is going to get farmed down, which is a bit unfortunate. Gonna send in the Galarian Zapdos. Zapdos will commit the shield and look to potentially try and farm down here. Commits the shield, it's the close combat. Not quite able to get the farm down. Will commit the shield here as the opponent reaches close combat number 2. Down 2 shields, but got rid of the Zacian, which is nice. And Zapdos has energy in the back. The opponent has Dialga. Baiting here with the Ancient Power, trying to grab a shield from the opponent. Ancient Power does get the shield, and now going for the Brave Bird. Oh my goodness, do they respect the Brave Bird on Dialga? They do not! Brave Bird connects, and now the Dialga is extremely low, sending in the Florges. Florges will absorb the Iron Head damage. Opponent going to send in Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh will be met with the Disarming Voice from the Florges. Florges, Disarming Voice, gets the shield from Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh looking for the farm down, but Florges says no. Florges makes it to the Disarming Voice. That KOs the Ho-Oh. In comes Dialga. Dialga cannot farm down. Florges with 1 HP gets the Disarming Voice, KOs Dialga, and gets the win. Hopping into the final match, sending Galarian Zapdos into another Giratina origin. As before, immediate save switch into Florges. Giratina not switching out, so Florges gonna fire off Disarming Voice. This is the weaker of its 2 charge moves, but it will still hurt quite a bit, so we see a shield being used, and the opponent is going to send in Exca. The team working as it's supposed to, being able to bait out the Steel type, so hopefully that should allow Reshiram to close in the endgame. Firing off this Moonblast. Moonblast, of course, is going to be resisted, but it will still do some nice damage onto the Exca. Farming up, going for the Moonblast, but the opponent is able to win CMP, and we're going to see the no shield here from the Florges. Recognizing that Florges did its job, it baited out the Exca, and now it's Zapdos' turn to farm all the way down. Exca fires off a Drill Run there. You can see the unfamiliarity with Galarian Zapdos' typing, Drill Running a flying type, because to be fair, Zapdos is on the ground, so it doesn't necessarily look like a flying type. Opponent goes with the Shadow Ball, that lands. Zapdos going to return fire here with the Brave Bird. Do they respect the damage? They do not! Big damage! In comes Reshiram, and in the back, the opponent has Zacian. Reshiram farming up a bunch of energy. Reshi can tank whatever they throw here. Opponent fires off a close combat. Oh no, they're a double nuke Zacian, and they're about to get crushed by Reshiram. Fusion Flare gets shielded. They continue to farm up. Reshiram makes it to Fusion Flare number 2. They lowered their defense, so I'm pretty sure this is just going to KO. In comes Giratina. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. All in all, these were some incredibly cool battles featuring XL Galarian Zapdos, and this is probably one of the only XL Galarian Zapdoses in the world, because unless you just happen to have the 296 XL sitting around from when regular Zapdos was in raids, there's not really a good way to get XLs for this Pokemon. So very cool, and many thanks to Elodicolo for submitting the footage so we can see the level 50 Galarian Zapdos in action. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is absolutely incredible. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.